Okay, we want to get started. We have a lot of people to speak tonight, and we want to get started. So I want to thank you all for being here tonight in our Commonwealth Conversation Tour. We are traveling all over the state in every senator's district. There are various meetings taking place, and we are here to hear what all of our constituents, what people are interested in. I'm Cindy Creem, your state senator, and I want to start by having all of the senators that are sitting here to introduce themselves and tell you where they're from. So if I can start to my left.
I'm Will Brownsberger. I represent a good chunk of Boston from Brighton out, from Back Bay out to Brighton, and I represent also Belmont and Watertown.
Good evening, I'm Barbara L'Italian. I live in Andover, and I also represent Lawrence, Dracut, and Tewksbury.
I'm Vinny DiMacedo. I represent Plymouth and Barnstable District, Plymouth, Kingston, Pembroke, Bourne, Sandwich, and Falmouth.
Good evening, I'm Eileen Donoghue, and I represent the 1st Middlesex District, which includes the city of Lowell in the towns of Westford, Groton, Dunstable, Tingsboro, and Pepperell.
Thank you very much, and thank you for coming this evening. State Senator Mike Barrett. I'm from Lexington. I represent 9 communities, including in the south, Weston, Sudbury, and Waltham, going all the way up through Concord and Bedford to Chelmsford.
And his wife grew up in Newton.
Good evening, State Senator Jamie Eldridge, the Middlesex and Worcester District, 14 communities in the Acton-Marlborough area.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Senator Michael Rodericks. I live in Westport, and I represent Fall River, Somerset, Swansea, Freetown, Lakeville, and Rochester.
I represent Newton, Brookline, and Wellesley. This is Senate President.
Stan Rosenberg, and I represent 24 communities in Western Mass. I will spare you their names.
Good evening, and thank you all for coming out to join us tonight. I'm State Senator Bruce Tarr. I'm the minority leader of the Massachusetts State Senate. My home is in Gloucester, and I represent 17 communities in the northeastern part of the state. And unless we want to be eating breakfast here at Newton North High School, I will not name them either. Thank you for being here with us.
Karen Spilka. I represent the 2nd Middlesex and Norfolk District, which consists of the first 4 towns of the Marathon: Hopkinton, Ashland, Framingham, Natick, and then swing south along 495 to include Holliston, Medway, and Franklin. Thanks for coming.
I'm Harriet Chandler. I represent the 1st Worcester District, which also includes 2/3 of Worcester and 6 towns surrounding Worcester. Oh, you got one. Okay.
Switching microphones. I'm Senator Richard Ross. I represent the Norfolk, Bristol, and Middlesex District. It includes 12 communities from the city of Attleboro in the south, going up 1 town wide, all the way to Wayland. Thank you.
Good evening, I'm John Keane. I represent the city of Quincy and the towns of Braintree, Abington, Rockland, and Holbrook.
Good evening, I'm Ken Donnelly. I represent Arlington, Billerica, Burlington, Woburn, and 6 of the precincts in Lexington.
Thank you. I want to just repeat that this is a bipartisan endeavor. We're nothing like what goes on in Washington. We all love our colleagues, and we have Democrats and Republicans on this panel, so we really want to hear from you. We also have present tonight some state reps that are representatives in the district, in our district of Newton, Brookline, and Wellesley. And they are wonderful, and they too want to hear what you have to say. So I'm going to say their names, and they are standing in back, but their ears are hearing just like ours. So as we look forward, Representative Ruth Balzer, she's a representative from Newton. To her left is my friend Representative Alice Peisch, who represents Wellesley. And I know that Representative Kay Khan is on her way because she was telling me that she was going to be here. I also wanted to introduce the principal of Newton North, Jen Price, who was very gracious, took us on tours of the school, and was very gracious this evening. Thank you very much, Jen. And Before we get started, I just want to have the Mayor of Newton, Sadie Warren, come up and give us a greeting from the city.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Newton. Welcome to Newton North. We are still currently doing snow removal in Newton, just so you know and you're not concerned. In all seriousness, we're very appreciative, Mr. President, for your leadership in bringing Beacon Hill to our communities. This is so important. Senator Creem, thank you for your leadership, for organizing this. We are so lucky to have Senator Creem, Representative Cobb, Representative Balzer, and Representative Lon representing us here in Newton. But this dialogue is so important, and it takes a lot for you all. I know you've been traveling around the state. We're appreciative of you being here. Please give a round of applause also to the principal and teachers of this great high school, because they do such a great job for our students every single day. Welcome to Newton, and again, thank you all for being here and for your leadership.
Thank you. And if there are any school committee people or aldermen or local officials that I have not noticed, please feel free to raise your hand and say your name. Otherwise, we're going to proceed. So I'm going to be moderating, but to my left is my friend, Senator Mike Rodrigues, and much of the idea of having this wonderful Commonwealth conversation was his brainchild. So he's going to tell us how it's going to work, and then we'll begin.
Thank you very much, Senator Creem. Good evening, everyone. This is a tremendous turnout here in Newton. We began this Commonwealth conversation listening to a few weeks ago when we divided the state into 8 districts, and all of the senators in those respective districts put together day-long events listening to us for senators from other parts of the state to join them and hear what's important to them in their districts. Tonight we are going to culminate with this open public forum. We ask that anyone that would like to speak to us, please sign in so we know who we're speaking with. We also ask that you please silence all your cell phones so as not to disturb anyone that is at the microphone. And we are going to limit all testimony to 2 minutes in order to ensure that we have the opportunity to listen to, if not everyone, at least as many people as possible. We found that this worked very, very well in other public forums that we've had. We have a timekeeper, and she will rise at the end of 2 minutes and just gently tap Senator Creem on the shoulder, and Senator Creem will politely ask you, to conclude your remarks so that we can listen to the next individual. And what we've done is we've introduced who is going to be the speaker and who is on deck, who is ready. So you're prepared, you're ready to speak as the next speaker. So we thank you, and we look forward to listening to you and hearing what you have to say.
Thank you. So I'm going to call 3 names so you can get ready and line up. The first person is Karen Bray, then, and forgive me if I say names incorrectly, Lucy Costa and David McCarthy. Please.
My name is Karen Bray, and I dread nice weather. When spring finally arrives, we will be bombarded by the air pollution and noise of leaf blowers. I'm a physical therapist and member of Newton Safe and Sound, working for regulations on leaf blowers. Leaf blowers are different. We can't dig into the sidewalk with our fingernails, hence jackhammers. We can't demolish and rebuild homes with our bare hands. Construction machines make sense. Snow blowers, we hardly need to be reminded, are useful, but limited. Leaf blowers, however, are not a necessity. They pose a serious hazard to both citizens and the workers. They stir up toxic elements including spores, pollen, diesel soot, brake dust, rubber tire particles, arsenic, lead and mercury, pesticides, herbicides, dirt, ash, mold, fecal matter, and volatile organic compounds such as benzene and butadiene, which are known to contribute to breast cancer. Massachusetts has a higher rate of breast cancer and other forms of cancer than the national average. Children are even more susceptible to these hazards. They breathe twice as quickly as adults, and their lungs are still developing. Many cities around the country already have total bans on leaf blowers. Brookline and Cambridge have seasonal bans. I do not want to put landscapers out of business. I know 4 companies happy to offer raking in Newton. We would appreciate the involvement and the consideration of our state representatives to help us regulate or hopefully eliminate the use of leaf blowers. If you'd like to read more of the grim statistics yourselves, please go to our website at Newton Safe and Sound. I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much. Well within the time. Lucy Costa.
Good evening. My name is Lucy Costa. I live in Wellesley, and I'd like to thank my senator, Cynthia Creem, and all the senators for being here, and also my representative, Alice Pice, for being here. I'm a healthcare consumer, and I'm here as an advocate as well with Healthcare for All. And I'd like to talk to you about rising out-of-pocket medical costs for many of our Massachusetts residents. We're very fortunate here in Massachusetts to have wonderful insurance coverage. Unfortunately, for many people who have chronic conditions such as hypertension, diabetes, high blood pressure, medications and treatments are not covered. So a lot of people are deciding between heating their home or eating and paying for their medications. So I'm here to mention a bill that's currently before the legislature, which is House Docket 1690 and Senate Docket 656. That was introduced by Senator Lewis and Representative Farley Bouvier. And what that would do is address the rising costs by covering, it would eliminate co-pays and also some of the deductibles for high-value, cost-effective treatments. And this would also reduce overall healthcare costs, because one of the things that we're finding is people are going to the emergency room because they haven't taken care of their preventative treatments. So thank you for your time and your consideration.
Thank you very much. Next up to bat, David McCarthy.
Thank you. My name is David McCarthy, and I am representing the Massachusetts Association of Realtors and as president of the Greater Boston Association of Realtors. I won't bore you with the 47 communities that I represent and the 7,200 agents in the Greater Boston Association of Realtors. I'd like to speak to you about 2 issues this evening. The first one is a bill that the Massachusetts Association of Realtors has filed with the state, and it addresses, we believe, the lack of affordable housing. And affordable housing, I'm not talking about affordable income, but housing that the working class families can afford to buy in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and afford to live in. It is referred to as the Act of Improving Housing Opportunities in the Massachusetts economy. We're referring to it as HOME for short. This addresses the insufficient housing stock that potential homeowners in Massachusetts face as a result of housing costs. We need more homes, but unfortunately, there are barriers to housing production. And this bill addresses several issues, and I'll read some of the provisions in the home legislation. It's the easing the production of cluster development housing. It's allowing in-law apartments by right. It's easing the dimensional variance burden. It's allowing multi-family housing construction by right, and approving special permits by a majority vote. Secondly, our association has filed legislation against homeowners who have recently experienced foreclosure or short sale or a loan modification. Under current state law, those individuals, when they have a short sale foreclosure, are required to pay taxes on the forgiveness of that debt. It is often referred to as phantom income. In Massachusetts, they have to pay taxes on it. At the federal level, since 2007, the Congress and the Senate have approved that income is not taxable, and we're asking for the state to do the same as the federal government. Thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate your effort.
Thank you very much. The next 3 people are Paul Yorkis, Dowda Sen, and Maxwell Morigiello. Sorry, I ruined that one. Okay. Please, Paul.
Good evening, and thank you for being here this evening. I'm the Vice President for Government Affairs for the Massachusetts Association of Realtors, and would like to address 2 issues. One deals with copper theft. Before the legislature, there have been a number of bills to regulate the sale of scrap metal, which we believe would reduce the copper theft, which is across the Commonwealth. It's not an urban issue, it's not a rural issue, it's not a suburban issue, it's across the Commonwealth. Realtors want to build communities. We believe that the legislature wants to build communities and not see them torn apart, and this bill would help accomplish that. Second bill has been introduced by my friend and my senator, Karen Spilka, and it deals with license plates that are sold for charity in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Everyone is aware that the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is experiencing a budget shortfall, but the needs of those less fortunate among us, those experiencing housing, hunger, or homelessness, can be addressed if this bill passes, because the proceeds from the sale of the plate would be used to address those issues with 501(c)(3) charities across the Commonwealth. So I know your plate is full, and I know you have many issues that you will be addressing, but I really would encourage you to do everything you can to think about and implement legislation which helps those who are less fortunate among us. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And before the next speaker, I don't know if there's a microphone down there, but I think Senator Jalen may have just come in, and she might want to just introduce herself.
I'm Pat Jalen. I represent the 2nd Middlesex District, Somerville, Medford, part of Winchester and part of Cambridge, and I graduated from Newton North before the dawn of time.
That's why they replaced it.
Okay, thank you. The next person is down to Sen.
Yes. My name is Dhruva Sen. I'm from Framingham. I rise to speak in support of the bill to overturn Citizens United, and that bill has been brought in by Senator Jamie Eldridge, thanks to him. And I also rise in support of the single-payer bill that has also been brought in by Senator Jamie Eldridge. And as the president of the Massachusetts chapter of the Brady campaign to prevent gun violence, I would be in favor of stronger and better laws to prevent gun trafficking. Thank you very much.
Maxwell
Marangelo. Thank you. Thank you for letting me speak today. I'm from Franklin, Massachusetts. One of the things I wanted to share today is I was really sort of inspired when Senate President Rosenberg was elected and talked about his message for shared leadership. And it's been an issue that I've been very passionate about for some time. And I feel strongly that every state senator and every state rep should have an equal say in the legislative process. And I think it's under President Rosenberg, I'm glad to see progress on that front. I think one of the biggest impediments in the past has been how committees are appointed and how their chairmen are appointed. I think that carries a lot of weight in the legislative process and how people conduct their business. And so I was wondering if it would be possible for the Committee on Rules to study this session, changing how committees are appointed, so that maybe there's a committee on committees that's selected by lot that appoints people to committees, or that committees could choose their own chairman. But whatever the process is, I think there needs to be a different process for how committees are appointed. There are other states that do that. There are some states that have committees that have committees. I know the National Conference on State Legislature has some different information on that regard. And I really hope that's something that the Senate would look at to study this session for maybe implementation next session. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next three people are Abraham Walters, Jan Jonas, and Ellie Goldberg.
Hello, my name is Abraham Walters, and I'm a voter in Milford. I'm a proud member of Crossroads Clubhouse and the Massachusetts Clubhouse Coalition. And Crossroads is an employment and recovery community that has been very helpful to me in my life and in my dual recovery from mental illness and addiction. Crossroads helped me to get off unemployment in Mass Health and gain my current full-time job with benefits. Dual Recovery Anonymous meetings at Crossroads and relationships that I developed at the clubhouse are what helped me achieve full-time employment that works for me, while helping me maintain my sobriety and good mental health. I'd like to thank you for your support for funding DMH community services, particularly clubhouses. I'd also like to thank you for putting protective language in the DMH budget that ensures that DMH will not spend less on clubhouses this fiscal year than they did in the last fiscal year. We are hopeful that Governor Baker will fix the problems with the Chapter 257 rates for clubhouses, as they are very inadequate. Many clubhouses are experiencing constant staff turnover and positions they cannot hire anyone into for long periods of time due to inadequate salaries tied to inadequate funding. Examples are Horizon House in Wakefield that should have 7 staff positions. They're trying to operate an evidence-based clubhouse with only 2 staff positions, and they cannot get fully staffed due to inadequate salaries. Potter Place in Waltham has had no employment coordinator for 8 months, as no one with experience will take the job with these low salaries. The same is for Transitions of Boston and Roxbury. They're down 3 positions. The examples go on and on. I'd ask you to do what you can do to support funding for Chapter 257 rate increases, including clubhouse rates. And please, no cuts to DMH adult community mental services, particularly clubhouses. Thank you, Senate President, and Senators and Representatives.
Thank you. Jan. Well, it wasn't tall enough, now it's too tall.
What's the short jokes?
Oh, good.
Here, try this. Okay. I'm Jan Jones. I'm a retired software engineer. In recent years, many public issues have concerned me. My long list includes the world's runaway creation of greenhouse gases and an economy that works too often for Wall Street but not for Main Street. My overriding concern, though, is that many public policies are designed by and for a small number of lobbyists and the narrow interests that they represent. To address this serious problem, I urge the Massachusetts legislature to pass the We the People bill, HD 1988, filed by Senator Eldridge and Representative Corey Atkins. This bill is an important concrete step towards creation of a constitutional amendment. The amendment would specify that constitutional rights belong to human beings only and that political spending is not protected free speech. As many of you know, support for such an amendment was placed on the ballot in roughly 1/3 of the towns in Massachusetts. In all cases, it won decisively with an average of over 70%. Few candidates get to claim this margin of error. I urge you as legislators to heed the will of the voters by passing the We the People's Bill, HD 1988. And thank you for the senators who filed this and who co-sponsored.
And Ms. Jones, where do you live?
I live in Maynard.
Maynard, thank you. Ellen.
My name is Ellie Goldberg. I am a longtime advocate for healthy children, healthy schools, clean water, clean air, and clean energy. I'm a board member of Clean Water Action and the Alliance for a Healthy Tomorrow, and a member of Newton's Green Decade. I thank you for this opportunity because the health and economic security of our families depends so heavily on the wise policy making of our elected officials. First, I'd like to quote Love Canal activist Lois Gibbs, who directs the Center for Health, Environment, and Justice. She asked, how is a hunting license like a pollution permit? A hunting license limits you to certain times and places, and you are never allowed to kill the babies. In contrast, when a corporation gets permission to pollute, it is a perpetual toxic release, and our babies are the first and the worst affected. In fact, our children are the hit-and-run victims of thousands of life-altering stealth substances in our water, air, and food, and in the products in our homes, schools, and workplaces. Yet we know that flame retardants, pesticides, phthalates such as BPA and its sister chemicals such as BPS, and hazardous cleaners and dry cleaning solvents make us sick. They can condemn infants and children to an unhealthy start and an uncertain future. They lead not only to pain and suffering from preventable illness and disability, but to high health care and insurance costs, the budget busters of every family, school district, municipality, and business. We have the right to expect our legislators to make decisions based on an ethic of community and integrity. We cannot afford to delay or wait for the federal government or the marketplace to stop the toxic exposures, fossil fuel pollution, gas pipeline leaks, GMOs, or poor solid waste management. Clean Water Action and the Alliance for a Healthy Tomorrow support the legislative action for transparency, disclosure, reporting, phasing out, tracking, and restricting hazardous chemicals and practices. Indeed, we do have a right to know, but even more, we have a right to be safe. I urge you to improve and expand your efforts for health protection and pollution prevention, and I pledge to work with you. Thank you.
Thank you. The next three, Paul O'Connell, Lisa Barstow, and Tom Mountain.
Hi, my name is Paul O'Connell. I'm the proud administrator of Beaumont at the Willows in Westboro in Senator Jamie Eldridge's district. I live in Franklin, Massachusetts in Senator Karen Spilka's district, and I'd like to thank Senator Harriet Chandler for sponsoring the stabilization bill for the facilities across the Commonwealth. The Commonwealth nursing facilities provide a core state service to frail elders and disabled individuals who can no longer care for safely at home. Every year we care for over 150,000 individuals. Our long-term residents are frail elders and people with disabilities who cannot be safely cared for at home. The typical nursing facility resident is an 86-year-old woman, widowed with multiple chronic illnesses, including dementia, and who lived alone prior to entering a nursing facility. Our long-term residents have a high medical acuity and are heavily dependent on assistance with activities of daily living, such as bathing, dressing, toileting, dining, and transferring. Caregivers in the facility provide 24-hour per day supervision and on average 3.7 hours of direct nursing care a day. Approximately 70% of long-term care residents have their care paid for by state Medicaid program. Our short-term patients seek post-acute care following a hospital stay and return home within 1 month after their successful rehabilitative stay at the nursing facility. The typical short-term patient is 60 to 70 years old and admitted from a hospital following a surgical procedure, hip or knee replacement, or medically complex hospitalization such as pneumonia or stroke. Our short-term patients receive intensive skilled nursing care and rehabilitation services such as physical and occupational and speech therapies. Annually, about 70,000 patients are discharged from nursing facilities back to their homes in the community within 1 month. Most short-term patients have their post-acute care paid for by federal Medicare programs. Our caregivers. Over 50,000 dedicated caregivers work in skilled nursing facilities, making long-term care providers the state's second largest health care employer. Nursing facilities offer competitive wages and benefits as well as advanced training.
Thank you, Paul. We're at the end of the 2 minutes.
Okay. I'll just say Nursing Home Week is coming up on Mother's Day. Please, Senator Eldridge has been there. I encourage you all to go.
Thank you very much. Lisa Barstow.
Hi, I'm a resident of Brookline Village, Senate President. Thank you so much for organizing this, and Senator Creem, I thank you for your service. I live along the D line on the MBTA Brookline Village stop. Obviously, it's a lifeline for me downtown. And given the woes of the MBTA lately, I'm really concerned about how we move forward and whether you believe that taxes are a necessary part of the plan going forward, and if so, if there is any legislation planned, if you would be able to speak to that. Anyone on the panel who may be on a transportation committee or...
This is a listening tour, so we're not going to get into... We want to hear what all of you have to say, but we're not going to be responding to anyone, so it has nothing to do with your issue or any issue. We're here to listen, and so many people want to speak that if we got into debates, we'd never be done. So please
Thank you. I respect that. It wasn't a debate. I thought it was Commonwealth conversation, so I thought it was a bit of a give and take. But thank you.
Thank you very much. Tom Mountain, are you here? Well, okay. If you come back, we'll call on you. Adele Beggs, David Rosenberg, and Judy Deutsch.
Good evening. My name is Adele Beggs. I am from Wellesley, and I am thanking all of you for being here, and I know how hard you all work for us. I am concerned about our taxes, and I'm just hoping that whatever you are going to be doing this year and in the next couple of years, you keep in mind that we hope we don't have them raised to cover the deficits we have. Somehow we need to limit our spending and not raise our taxes.
Thank you. David Rosenberg.
Good evening, and thank you for allowing me to bring the following to your attention. I'm advocating a change which creates an option, not a mandate, and which, if the option is exercised, allows the operation of public bodies to be more open and transparent, hence making it easier for busy citizens to actively monitor what a public body is doing and facilitating greater citizen engagement with public bodies. It would allow public bodies to operate more efficiently and productively, and it need not cost the Commonwealth any money. I'm referring to House Docket 56, an act to permit enhanced public access to deliberations of public bodies and to permit improved efficiency of public bodies. It was filed by Representative Tom Sanacandro, Representatives Leah Cole, Sean Dooley, Carolyn Dykema, Paul Hero, Jay Kaufman, Jeffrey Roy, Chris Walsh, and Senators Richard Ross and Karen Spilka are co-sponsors. I thank all the sponsor and the co-sponsors.
David, I'm sorry, but your 2 minutes are up, so if you've just finished your sentence.
You sure that was 2 minutes?
I didn't think it was up either. Someone tapped me, and I thought, oh, wow. Just a minute.
Sure.
Continue. Yeah, please continue. Someone tapped me, and I said, wow, that was the fastest 2 minutes, but...
I understand.
Please
I have
continue.
one more paragraph. This act, House Docket 56, would amend the Massachusetts Open Meeting Law to permit public bodies to participate in public internet discussions at which deliberation, but no votes or formal action may take place. Public internet discussions must be publicly announced in exactly the same way as meetings. The public must be given free access via the internet to monitor the discussion as fully as the members of the public body themselves. All statements must be date and time stamped and attributed to the person who made them. A transcript must be kept and must be freely available via the internet. This amendment would take advantage of Massachusetts' pervasive internet use to give public bodies an option for opening their deliberations to the general public who have internet access but can't attend in-person meetings. It also enables public bodies to operate more efficiently by allowing the members to communicate with each other whenever it is convenient, but in a way that is completely open to the public at large via the internet. This is an option, not a mandate. There's no cost to the Commonwealth or for a public body that doesn't exercise the option. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry I interrupted you. Before the next speaker, I did want to mention that Representative Khan has come in, and she is in the back there. Okay, thank you. Hold your applause, please. Judy?
Hi, I'm Judy Deutsch from Sudbury, Massachusetts. Pleased that you're listening to us, and very pleased that we have two such great senators in Sudbury as Senator Eldridge and Barrett. It's great to have them. I'm here to speak about two bills tonight, two bills that I urge you to pass. And the first one will save billions of dollars for the Commonwealth. Not only will it save money, but it will give quality health care to every resident in the state. That's the Act for Medicare for All. And it's well past time that this state gave decent health care to every resident. We need it. Secondly, the nation needs what Senator Eldridge has proposed, along with Corey Atkins, Representative Corey Atkins, the We the People Bill, an act for a United States constitutional amendment and amendments convention. Our state has to go on record as saying that we don't approve of Citizens United and the McCutcheon Supreme Court rulings. It takes power away from the people, and we're supposedly having a democracy, not a plutocracy. So please do what you can. And if I have another minute, I want to say that Senator Barrett's carbon tax bill is a great one, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
It doesn't fit.
Doesn't go in? I think help is on its way.
It takes two hands.
Thank you.
You didn't call my name, but I know I was after Mrs. Deutsch. John Schumacher Hardy, Lancaster, Massachusetts. I'm here to speak to you briefly about the foreclosure crisis, and especially urging you to advocate for the thousands of victims across the Commonwealth who have been caught in the crosshairs of this national crisis. I'm going to pass out a few things for you to look at later, but recently, a lot of people think the foreclosure crisis is expired, but it hasn't. In December, for example, just this past December, Christmas time, we saw a 323% increase of foreclosures in the Commonwealth from the previous December. That's a significant jump during the holidays. And in January, we've still seen a 147% jump from the previous January. So the numbers are not decreasing in the Commonwealth, they are increasing. And those were numbers that were already high, recordly high, and affecting many voters, many taxpayers. From paupers to privileged. There's been no respecter of victims in this crisis. Personally, I had my home foreclosed upon October 2009. I'm still fighting. I'm on my second appeal, as you can see. A lot of research and a lot of uphill battle. Last year there were some legislative bills proposed that undercut the rights of the victims and the homeowners. I want to encourage you folks to please, as you're deliberating over these issues, seek solutions that do not erode century-old rights to homeowners, that do not rob us and steal further our opportunity for justice. There's many areas to this, many layers, but some of the most significant are the littered landscape of the Registry of Deeds with fraudulent documents created and honored in our judicial system, even though they are unexecuted or they're signed by confirmed and confessed robo-signers. There's layer upon layer of fraud. These are all smoking guns to a much larger problem. And the victims are on Main Street, not Wall Street. And we need you to look seriously into supporting these voters and taxpayers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. The next three people, if you hold your applause, everyone will get to speak. Kevin Johnson, Betty Soule, and Mary Livingston.
Hi, I'm Kevin Johnson. I live in Newton. I'm here to speak about a revenue-neutral carbon fee, which Senator Barrett has supported and led, and which I know a number of you may also be supporting. This is a great way for us in Massachusetts to finally start doing something about climate change. Economists and scientists have been saying for years that if you want to do something about climate change, you make burning carbon more expensive. And that's what this does by adding a fee on gasoline, on home heating fuels, on other carbon forms of generation. But the government doesn't keep the fee. The fee is given back through dividends to households or through tax cuts to corporations. It's a revenue neutral from a government point of view, which is exactly the right way to do this policy. It's working now in British Columbia. It was established there in 2008. Studies show that it has cut emissions much more quickly than expected. It has contributed to job growth in British Columbia and also contributed to economic growth. A recent study by the Massachusetts Department of Energy Research found that the same impact would happen here. Ideally, this kind of policy should be led by Washington. We all know that's not going to happen. So this is a great opportunity for the states, the laboratories of democracy, to lead again. This is the time for Massachusetts to do this again, as we did with health care. I have been speaking a bit on the Hill and have some sense of the politics around this, and I get what one hears is that people don't want to support it because one is afraid of being labeled a tax increaser if one votes for this. I encourage everyone here to, not be afraid of that kind of a sentiment. That's a sentiment that comes out of an excessive distrust of government. If a piece of legislation says this is going to be revenue neutral, that the fee is going to be returned, let's say to our voters that's what's going to happen, and reject the notion that what the legislation actually says is not what's going to happen. So kudos to you, Senator, and let's support this legislation.
Thank you very much. Betsy, Sule, if everyone holds their applause, so many people want to speak, it just takes time away. So at the end, you can applaud all you want. Okay, Betsy.
Good evening. My name is Betsy Sule. I'm the Executive Director at MetroWest Legal Services in Framingham and a resident of Waltham. I'm here to talk about increased funding for civil legal aid in the FY16 state budget. There are over 40,000 people in the towns that my office serves that are financially eligible to receive free legal services. Statewide, there are over 1 million people who qualify to request such help. Legal aid turns away 64% of people who request legal assistance due to a lack of resources. Last year, MetroWest served approximately 2,000 clients but turned away about 2,500, and statewide, over 33,000 were turned away. Legal aid is the only place where those unable to afford an attorney can find advice or legal representation free of charge to help them access the justice system and give them a more level playing field. We represent the most vulnerable in our community in cases concerning basic human needs. The recent Boston Bar Association Task Force report on funding for civil legal aid provides independent, objective data showing the money invested by the state in legal representation in civil cases returns between $2 and $5 to the Commonwealth for every dollar of funding given. 24% of our income comes from the state budget. Legal aid programs receive funding from a diverse group of state, federal, and private funders, and despite our best efforts, and mostly because of the decrease in IOLTA funding, we need more. We need more so that we do not have to continue to deliver the painful news to potential clients. The word no, we can't help you. There's no other place to send you free of charge, but we don't have the resources. Yes, I understand you can't afford an attorney, but we can't do any more to help you. We need to do better and to do more to protect the legal rights of those who need help the most. In making such an investment in legal aid, the legislature will receive in return more than it gives. That is why we are asking the state to fund civil legal aid in FY16 at $25 million. It's a win-win proposition for everyone. The Commonwealth, legal aid advocates, but most importantly, the clients.
Thank you very much. Mary Livingston, Lynn Holbein, and Janet Johnson.
Hello, I'm Mary Livingston. I'm from Groton, and thank you for the opportunity to speak about an issue that I'm very passionate about, and that's democracy and the power of our vote. My gender has had a voice for less than 100 years, and I want it to count by getting big money out of politics. Others before me have spoken about the Supreme Court decisions, Citizens United and McCutcheon, that have opened the floodgates to massive campaign fundraising and spending. Additionally, the Goldwater Institute has filed a lawsuit in Massachusetts challenging our century-old ban on corporate contributions to political candidates. More than ever, we need a United States constitutional amendment to restore government of, by, and for the people rather than wealthy special interests. Others have mentioned the We the People Act that has been filed by Senator Jamie Eldridge, thank you, and Representative Corey Atkins. This bill has 81 co-sponsors in the House and Senate. Passing this bill would have Massachusetts, the birthplace of American democracy, join New Jersey, Vermont, California, and Illinois, and calling for an amendment convention. As America's founding fathers envisioned, corporations and unions are not people. Money is not free speech. and I'm here to urge that the We the People Act be brought to a vote as soon as possible to help fix our broken democracy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Lynn Holbein, and I'm here to speak to being smart on crime. And I'd like to first thank my own senator, Cindy Creem, who for all of the 14 years she's been in office has filed a bill to end mandatory minimum drug sentences, and who helped ensure in 2012 that the Three Strikes bill contains some moderating influences on mandatory minimums. And also I'd like to thank Senator Will Brownsberger, who helped to ensure that mentally ill prisoners would not be put in solitary confinement. I have had the pleasure of volunteering in prison every week for 14 years. And I see real people who are affected by the laws you passed. I saw, for instance, Bonnie DeToro. Bonnie was in the car with her boyfriend when he was arrested for selling drugs. And he got pled out, got an 8-year sentence. And she said, they offered her a 3-year plea. And she said, but I didn't do it. I was in the car, but I wasn't dealing drugs. And so she pled innocent. The jury found her guilty, and the judge said, I'm sorry, but because of mandatory minimum drug sentences, I'm forced to give you 20 years in jail without parole. 20 states have ended mandatory minimum drug sentences which do not allow judicial discretion. Why haven't we? There was a man in one of my classes who said, I was convicted of a drug offense. When I get out for 5 years, I will not be able to get a driver's license. Now, they keep telling me they don't want me to recidivate, but I've got to get a job when I get out if I'm not going to recidivate. How am I going to get a job without a driver's license? So this is another sort of non-common sense thing that we do. If 60% of crimes involve drugs, and if you can't get a driver's license for 5 years after you get out. So I urge you to please support, and Senator Rosenberg, we're very excited that you're interested in these.
Thank you, Lynn.
Thanks.
Thank you. Janet Johnson, Jean Palmer, and Margaret Albright.
Hi there. Thank you for this opportunity to hear all these very important issues. My name is Jan Johnson. I'm from Bolton. My concern is microwave exposure from wireless technology. We are being exposed to a rapidly growing blanket of microwave smog. You do not need to be a scientist to understand that these microwaves cause cancer. Here's how you can tell. If you have a broken bone that is not healing, your doctor might treat it by exposing the bone to microwaves. This causes increased cell division of the bone cells, which fill the gap and mend the bone. Microwaves have the same effect on cancer tissue. They cause the cells to multiply. My newspaper recently reported that cancer in children under 18 has increased 29% in the last 20 years. This correlates with the popular rise in use of cell phones, Wi-Fi, smart meters, baby monitors, iPads, and more. Microwaves cause many other health problems too. We can't be sure if it is microwaves causing these high cancer rates, but equally alarming is that there are so many toxins in our environment, we don't even know what's causing the problem. It's time for caution. A child in a city apartment building could easily have 6 or more smart meters. Those are meters that emit microwaves. These waves are constantly pulsing. Outside that child's bedroom, you could have 6 of these meters. If your child had leukemia, the utilities would charge you $11 a month to have that meter replaced with a safe meter. This would cost you $792 a year to have all 6 of those meters replaced, just so your child with leukemia is not exposed to microwaves. This is not right. Please support legislation that allows citizens to protect themselves from microwaves.
Thank you. Margaret Albright.
Good evening. I'm Margaret Albright, representing the Newton School Committee. Newton Public Schools are facing several challenges. Our student enrollment has grown to levels not seen since the 1970s. At the same time, we are experiencing rapid change in terms of the move to the Common Core state standards and PARCC exams. Our enrollment has grown by more than 1,300 students in the last decade and now stands at 12,674, making us the 8th largest district in the state. Student demographics are changing rapidly as well. Currently, 35% of our students are racial ethnic minorities, 22% have a first language other than English, and 20% are identified as special education. Almost 12% of our students are identified as low income. This number has almost doubled in a decade. 24% of our students who are English language learners are low income. One of the greatest challenges, and one that faces Newton and many districts inside of 128, is that rising student enrollments are straining our districts in many ways. The costs of increasing our capacity, expanding our facilities and programs to meet growing populations, are not accounted for in the Chapter 70 formula. The cost of adding instructional space is very high. There is little available buildable land that is affordable in cities and towns like ours, making building additional school space an expensive proposition. We face continual trade-offs between spending on bricks and mortar versus programs and services. We anticipate that our capacity challenges will continue as we project our enrollment to exceed 13,000 by 2018. We hope that the legislature will recognize that with economic and housing growth come rising school populations, and that many districts are struggling to meet this challenge while ensuring our students receive a high-quality education. Thank you.
Thank you. Monica Mendez, Nancy Stanton, and Lorraine Ayon.
Muy buenas tardes, mi nombre es Mónica Méndez, yo vivo en Lowell y soy miembro de la Unión S1. He estado trabajando en Cross Point por casi 10 años. No hay mucho trabajo bueno con unión, salarios y beneficios para la gente trabajadora.
I'm going to translate for her. My name is Monica Mendez. I live in Lowell. I've been a member of CU 32BJ since over 10 years. I've been working on Cross Point for over 10 years. There isn't much jobs with good benefits, with a union and good salaries.
¿Cómo yo puedo salir adelante con nuestra familia? La semana pasada, muchos de nosotros hemos perdido nuestros trabajos.
How can I go forward with my family? Last week we lost our jobs in the company.
El propietario del edificio contrató a Emerald Cleaning.
Property managers hire Emerald Green Cleaning.
Una nueva compañía de limpieza que paga menos que nuestros empleadores anteriores.
A cleaning company that paid less compared with the last company.
Muchos de nosotros aplicamos con ellos para tratar de conseguir trabajo.
All of us applied to get a job with them.
Pero ellos no quieren ofrecer puestos de trabajo a la mayoría de nosotros.
But they just didn't want to hire us.
Esto es injusto.
This is unfair.
Lo hemos hecho bien aquí. Hemos trabajado durante muchos años.
We have been doing good in here and we have worked for a lot of years.
Y esta es la forma en que nos tratan.
And this is the way we are treating.
Estoy aquí porque sé lo importante que es un sindicato.
I'm here because I know how important it is to have a union.
Para que podamos pagar las cuentas, el apoyo a nuestra familia e incluso ahorrar algo de dinero para la jubilación.
So we can pay our bills, support our family, and even save for the retirement.
Todo el mundo debería de ser capaz de ganarse la vida trabajando a tiempo completo.
Everybody should be capable to win the life, to make the money in a full time.
¿Por qué están bajando los estándares? No lo sé.
I don't know why they are reducing the standard jobs.
Pero sí sé es que el mes que viene no voy a ser capaz de pagar el alquiler y esto no es justo.
What I know is that the next month I won't be able to pay my rent. Is not fair.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Please hold your applause.
Nancy Stanton. I am representing the Newton-Wellesley chapter of the National Alliance on Mental Illness. The reason I've come here is to ask that you restore more funding to the Department of Mental Health. Over the last decade, we have lost $55 million in what we get each year from the state, and I'd like to be able to, because there are more people involved now, more people that are needing services, we really think that there's a need for funding. I'd also like to ask for an increase in the reimbursement by Mass Health for behavioral health services. Hospital beds have been closed with mental health services. Outpatient mental health clinics have been closed, and people who do behavioral health are paid less and so really have less incentive. We have quite a few psychiatrists in Newton, but we don't have a whole lot of people who are able to take Medicaid across the state. So we do need more of that. The other things I'd like you to be aware of, there are some things on the docket. Representative Balzer has asked for mental health parity for disability policies. With commercial insurance, disability, long-term disability continues for 2 years for somebody with a mental health problem. It lasts until somebody is 65 with a physical problem. The act relative to police training, Senate docket 682, increases funding for the training of police officers. We have found that in the past we've gotten funding for some of the...
Nancy, thank you. You'll conclude. Okay, thank you.
My name is Lorraine, and I live in Wellesley. I am here this evening to speak in favor of legislation which will come before the Senate and the House this session. The legislation I am supporting is called an Act Relative to Transgender Anti-Discrimination, Senate Docket 398, also known as the Act Relative to Gender Identity and Non-Discrimination, House Docket 3072. On November 16, 2011, the legislature passed an act relative to transgender equal rights. While this act added substantial protections for transgender individuals in employment, housing, credit and lending, public education, the protections prohibiting discrimination in public accommodations was omitted from this law. Public accommodations are defined in Massachusetts law as any place, whether licensed or unlicensed, which is open to and accepts or solicits the patronage of the general public. This includes shops, restaurants, parks, museums, hospitals, and public transportation. Under current law, for example, a transgender person's right to work at a restaurant is protected, but the same person's right to be served at that restaurant is not protected. It is important to note that 17 states, Washington, D.C., 188 cities and counties already have ordinances or laws preventing discrimination against transgender individuals in public accommodations. In Massachusetts, these include Boston, Cambridge, Worcester, Amherst, Northampton, Salem, Brookline, Somerville, Newton, Medford, Melrose, and now lately Swampscott. New legislation would add gender identity as a protected class under existing Massachusetts civil rights laws. As an ally of the transgender community, I urge you to support this very important and necessary piece of legislation. Thank you very much.
Yes.
I heard my name mentioned and then I didn't hear it again. So
What's your name?
Jean Palmer from...
Yes, okay. You can go ahead.
I just wanted to say that like Senator Jalen, I too went to Newton High School, but I went here when it was Newton High School. There was no Newton North. So, okay. Jean Palmer from Lincoln. Hi, Senator Barrett. Nice to see you. Thank you for doing this. It's really great to hear all of these issues. A lot of them are national issues, not just state issues. But I'm here to support the We the People Act because I think it's so fundamental to everything. If we don't pass this amendment, nothing will get done. So Article 5 of the Constitution, in their wisdom, the Founding Fathers realized that Congress could get totally dysfunctional, so they allowed for a convention, and that's what this House Docket 1988 calls for. I'm just going to read it briefly. The legislature of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts calls on Congress to propose an amendment to the Constitution that would affirm the rights of the Constitution of the United States are the rights of natural persons, human individuals only, and Congress and the state shall place limits on political contributions and expenditures to ensure that all citizens have access to the political process, and the spending of money to influence elections is not protected free speech under the First Amendment. When Congress will not act on that, 34 states have the right, thank goodness for state legislators. Again, the Founding Fathers saw that...
If you are currently parked on Tiger Drive and are not in a legal spot, we will begin towing. If you're on Tiger Drive and you are not in a legal spot, you need to be in a legal spot identified as a parking space. We will begin towing. Thank you for removing your card.
I don't even know where Target Drive is. It's on the side? We can't hear you, yeah?
It's the circle that comes in and around off Walnut Street.
Okay.
That direction, the main entrance, what you would think of. So if you are parked along there, not in a legal spot, which means just a few spots on the side, better get cracking.
Okay. This isn't going to count on your time, but you're, okay.
Just a final point. Thank you, Jamie Eldridge, Senator Eldridge, and Senator Barrett. There's more than 60 House co-sponsors. There are more than 20 Senator co-sponsors. We depend on the state legislators. The Founding Fathers realized that. If we don't pass it in all the 34 states, nothing else will happen.
Thank you. So I'm going to call the next three people. I want to tell you that we have a half an hour left. I have 5 pages of people who have not spoken and 2 pages of people that have spoken. If you could pick up the speed, say what you want to say, it would be a shame that we're going to conclude at 8:30. As you notice, people have hours of ride home on the Senate level. So I'm giving you an opportunity to please come up, give us your issue, and then conclude, and then more people will have an opportunity. You don't have to do it, but it seems fair. Susan Parsons, Sean Eckelman, and Kiko Brecker and Story Brecker.
Thank you. Sue Parsons. I live in Newton. Welcome to all the senators here. I've been a volunteer and I'm currently working with the Massachusetts Alliance Against Predatory Lending, otherwise known as MAPLE. And as a gentleman who lost his home said a little earlier, yes, the housing crisis still exists. The organization I'm working with, actually let me step back for a minute. As someone who lives in Newton, I've experienced people in Newton who suffered foreclosure, and one dear friend in particular who actually lost her condo in Chestnut Hill because she, as a new citizen here, not having English as her primary language, got sold a probably illegal subprime mortgage. With a 323% increase December of this past year compared to December the year before, we are still looking at people potentially becoming homeless in MetroWest. We have some great maps here of the numbers of foreclosures that occurred in December. And we also have, thanks to most of you sitting there, 9 pieces of legislation right now for this session that will really help alleviate this issue. One is preventing unnecessary vacancies, which allows homeowners to pay rent to the bank who becomes their landlord once they're in foreclosure. until there's an owner-occupier about to move in. Currently, people can be precipitously on 48 hours notice evicted from their home. The second is a mediation program, very effective. Over 90% of families in Connecticut who use it either negotiate to stay in their home or have what's called a graceful exit. There are 7 other bills, and we're really looking for your support for the families of the Commonwealth. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to start doing 1 minute. So we do have a website for anybody that might not get to speak, but we're going to start doing the 1 minute. Thank you.
Hi, this is a national issue, something that's been brought up before, but I think it's the most important thing, and nothing else will change unless this happens. I also want to be a voice for a younger generation, and I hope that more people my age start doing this kind of stuff. I know that when I was in college, I had no interest in politics at all whatsoever, and only when I graduated did I start becoming interested in this stuff. And I'm glad to see that all these people are here. Obviously, that means that people can make a change, and I really want to inspire that in my generation. What I'm talking about is the issue of Citizens United and all that's been spoken about before. I just want to raise my concern with that same issue and just really drill it into your heads that this is the most important thing that we need to address. Nothing else will change unless this happens. Thank you.
Thank you. And your name is Sean, right?
Sean Eckelman, yes.
Thank you. Well done within the 1 minute.
Thank you. I'll read for my daughter. Hi, I'm Story, and I'm 6.5 years old. I go to Hillside Elementary School in Needham. I am in 1st grade, and I have 2 cats and 1 dog. Thank you for passing laws to protect animals. Please pass more. Thank you.
Wow, good job. Joe Franz and Marco O'Flaherty and Tom Orwell. And if I said it wrong, sorry.
Jane.
Joan.
Jane.
Jane, sorry, I couldn't read it.
I know. I come here tonight to speak about a growing concern amongst K-12 educators, the amount of educational time we have lost to mandated testing in recent years. Students spend up to 7 days each year taking these tests, but more importantly, teachers feel great pressure to use even more instructional time to prep students for the test. The prepping begins weeks and sometimes months in advance. And now we have a new test, the PARCC, that's even more problematic. The PARCC test is simply not ready for prime time. It has a confusing format, ambiguously worded questions, but most importantly, it is a computer-based test that is inherently inequitable to the neediest students in our state. The students who come from homes without access to the internet are at a significant disadvantage when they take this test. The inequity of the PARCC test based on students' economic status should be unacceptable in Commonwealth schools. I urge you as legislators to evaluate the testing cultures and refocus public education on authentic
thank you.
and less on test prep.
Mark, we got the gist.
I'm sorry.
Just give it a mark.
There you go.
I'm going to be watchful for the hook that comes out to get me. So,
Get ready.
Just want to say thank you to all the senators for coming, especially Senator Eldridge, who I know from Westboro, Senator Donoghue, who I know from Lowell, and the senator from Draycote, who I'll get to know tonight. So just simply, Paul O'Connor, the administrator for Beaumont, gave some testimony, and I just want to close the door on that. I'm the administrator at Kindred Transitional Care and Rehab in Westboro. The nursing home industry really needs your help. In particular, I'd ask your support for Senate Docket 1441. It's an act relative to stabilizing the Commonwealth nursing homes. It's a stabilization bill sponsored by Senator Harriet Chandler. And again, these are frail elders that need your help, depend on you. Along with that, all the workers that go along with, supporting them in the economy. So with that, have a good night and thank you.
Thank you. Tom Goswell. Okay. Emily Prenner, Peter Hill, and Daniel Huberman.
I'll make this quick.
Hi, my name is Emily Prenner. I'm from Newton, and I am here today to tell you about my support of SD 51, which is a proposed legislation to authorize a study of school day start times and schedules. You should also know that I'm the PTSO co-president at Newton South, and I have a very vested interest in this particular issue, particularly as it applies to teenagers and sleep deprivation and the side effects of sleep deprivation because of early start times. Our students are getting 7 hours or less of sleep. The recommended is 8.5 to 9 hours of sleep a night. Sleep deprivation in teens can lead to mental health problems, including depression and an increased risk of suicide ideation, memory and learning issues, and an increased risk of car accidents. That's just to name a few. This is an issue that we're looking at in Newton currently. The Newton South School Council is looking at this issue, and American Association of Pediatrics recommends an earlier start time for adolescents, and one more sentence. And later start time, pardon me, thank you, I'm rushing.
Thank you.
And by having a statewide recommendation, it will make it infinitely easier for school districts to be able to implement these changes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Peter Hill, thank you.
It worked.
As a chiropractor, I ask that you give patients equal...
Peter, you might have been out. We're down to 1 minute now. You 1 minute statements.
Well, in 1 minute statements, then I ask you to equal rights for chiropractors. Also, I'm a member of Governor Patrick's working group on family law. There are 8 of us here asking you to support the working group that you were on, Chapter 31A, also to work on 29C. I also ask you to look at 209A and to make sure that due process is taken care of, there's restraining order law, and that basically that people who have non-permanent orders have the right to get their name taken off the list. As the chair of the Traffic and Sidewalk Committee in Weston, I ask that you give the towns and cities the ability to change speed limits within a flexible pattern without having to go to the legislature to save cost. As a volunteer surrogate parent, I ask that you do a pilot program for kids in DCF custody rather than just take the kids and make them traumatized, that you give parents the option of going into basically like a group specialty setting for 6 months to a year so they can possibly try and be rehabbed, and then if they fail, then take their kids because those kids get bounced around. Finally, I ask that the Commonwealth, I'll just finish this up, that the Commonwealth do away with interest and penalties in child support because states that don't do it have higher child support payment rates.
Thank you, Peter. Well, you got it all in.
Hi, my name is Daniel Heftemariam. I live in Newton, Massachusetts. I thank you all for coming. I'm here to testify in support of a graduated income tax system in the Commonwealth.
Please don't.
I especially wanted to address my comments actually to the minority leader. I'm not sure where he is. But there are 34 other, for everyone who doesn't know, graduated income tax system simply means the same way that we pay federal taxes and lots of other taxes.
He's right here listening.
Oh, okay. No, thank you. Where those with a lower ability to pay a lower rate than those with a higher ability to pay. The shortest way of saying it. There are 34 other states in the country that already have a graduated income tax system for their state funding. And we seem to have budget crisis after budget crisis after budget crisis. We're in the middle of an MBTA budget crisis, and we had, in 2010, we had a huge budget crisis. We seem to always kick the can down the road when it comes to budget shortfalls year after year. I'm asking you to do the responsible thing, to fund our programs and services before the next crisis. Heaven forbid if it's in something like elder housing.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you.
I'm John Carlton-Foss. I live in Weston and Falmouth, so both of my senators are here, as is Alice Peisch. Nice situation. I'm about climate change issues, and I'll delete the next paragraph of what I was going to say. Some of the things that need to be done are carbon pricing, building and transportation energy efficiency, pushing forward on solar and wind, supporting local agriculture and enriching soils which can absorb carbon, move up to a 21st century public transportation system. About time. Make important existing systems such as that for health care more cost effective so that it doesn't drain our budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tom?
Yes.
I know you were moving your car.
Yes, I was. Thank you very much. I'm Tom Gosnell. I'm president of the American Federation of Teachers here in Massachusetts. So I'm going to speak really quickly in order to stay within the 1 minute. Justice Wendell, Oliver Wendell Holmes said, taxes are the price of civilization. We have a lot of poor kids in this state. They need wraparound services to achieve the best they can in education. Our higher ed system needs more funding. 80% of the girls and the boys who graduate from our higher ed system, state higher ed system, stay in the state of Massachusetts and contribute to the state of Massachusetts. Thirdly, our public libraries. They're a vital part of public education, and yet Prop 2.5 is still affecting our public libraries. I urge you to look at substantially increased funding for those 3 items. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Laura Wagner, John Carlton, Mark Holt, and Peter Bruce is after him. If you want to just start talking, saying your issues, we have 7 minutes.
Laura Wagner, Marlborough. I do not have hope that the federal government is going to address the immigration crisis that's in this country anytime soon, so I really want to see us act on the state to at least protect the people who are here. There are 3 bills that can do that in this state. One is the Trust Act. It'll rebuild trust of police, protect families, and stop needlessly separating families, and give us, provide due process. There's also the Safe Driving Bill. I don't understand what the problem is on that. Who is against having all drivers be trained, licensed, and insured on the road? That's the issue we need to focus on. And the Education Equity Bill. There are young people who are brilliant and are going to contribute to this state, and they need to have access to higher ed funding just like everyone else. Just because they have no documentation issue should not be prevent them from doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura. John?
I'm Peter.
Peter.
Thanks. Peter Bruce, cab driver from Newton. I want to talk about why we need to regulate Uber more strictly. After an Uber X driver hit and killed Sophia Liu in San Francisco, lawmakers were appalled not only at the tragedy, but at Uber's argument that it only would insure when the driver's app on a smartphone was in a certain phase. This kind of spotty coverage is common throughout the United States, and it's totally inadequate. But in California, Jerry Brown and the Democrats in the legislature and others decided to require Uber drivers through legislation that passed last summer to be insured throughout their whole shift, not just in a spotty way, but through their whole shift. The only state to do it so far, and I surely hope that Massachusetts will do that. Also, as a matter of public safety, Massachusetts state government should, number 1, subpoena Uber's records. Number 2, find the total number and identities of all of Uber's drivers. Number 3, notify private insurers of those who don't have commercial insurance and urge that they cancel those drivers' policies.
Thank you, Peter.
You're welcome.
Take it. Thank you. I'm Mark Holt from Newton, Massachusetts. I'm the founder of a small startup company, and I want to especially thank Senator Creem and her wonderful office for their administrative assistance and the Massachusetts High-Tech Collaborative Internship Program. For those of you that don't know this, many of our college students do not find the experience and employment they deserve here in Massachusetts because of economic conditions. And the Technology Collaborative enables qualifying Massachusetts college students and small businesses to get internships with a dollar-for-dollar grant from the state. It's a small program, but the young man that I employed, who's also a father, I found it to be very, very impactful. Also, to speak more generally about the technology and innovation in Massachusetts, I would like to speak in support of Mayor Warren's initiative to bring the Mass Challenge west. 1,600 individuals and small firms apply. It's the largest accelerator in the country. 1,400 of them are turned away every year, and London, the mayor of London, will be hosting 70 of them.
Thank you.
So I think that our mayor deserves the same
Thank you very
consideration.
much.
Thank you.
Dorothy Weissman, Tom Green, and Merle Haas.
Thank you.
I'm wanting to speak about criminal justice reform that I hope the Senate will lead the way on. And I feel many of us have noticed there's a great deal of greater consciousness in the state and elsewhere about the fact we have too many people in jails, too many people in prisons. The newest consciousness is about jails. We have too many in jails, and that's a special kind of injustice and wasteful expenditure and such. So we need to have some of the many bills that are in there acted upon. I hope that the Senate will do something creative like these sessions, move bills faster. People are discouraged. They say there's a lot of bills, we're all behind them, but are they going to move? The Judiciary Committee meets very late on the bills that we care about. Will we consider omnibus bills? There's 2 introduced. Let's do some packages. Let's have the sense that the Senate is leading in this area. It will be so important. I also want to thank Sheriff Katusian, who cooperated with a study on the jail population in Middlesex. We hope there will be, following that, some kinds of intervention to have pretrial and bail reform.
Thank you. Tom.
Thank you. I'm Tom Green. I'm from Hudson. I'd like to thank you all for coming tonight. And my issue that I'm raising is just the difficulty that I and many people have in following the legislative process after hearing from us. And I'd just like to address a couple of things. The Center for Public Integrity, which I'm sure you've heard of, evaluates state legislatures, and Massachusetts has done very well in a number of areas, including redistricting and requiring disclosure from lobbyists. However, Massachusetts gets failing grades in 2 areas: public access to information and the visibility into the budget process. There have been a number of pieces of legislation filed this year that will provide better access into the public legislation process, including those filed by Senator Eldridge. And one of the other areas that I know has been discussed is establishing a nonpartisan budget office, which I think would be really excellent in giving everybody a look into what the budget process is and having an outside view into what the cost of all of the legislation is being proposed. Hopefully these will be considered priority legislations to continue your time for transparency. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Meryl Haas from Newton. Thank you for convening this forum. I may be the only one to speak, but I am certainly not the only one here tonight to urge you to support Senate Docket 1061, also known as the Shared Parenting Bill. It is, not surprisingly, from its name, a shared parenting bill, and it will establish a preference in favor of equal time with each parent and at least 1/3 of the time with each. It will help thousands of children across the Commonwealth spend time with both parents, even fathers. It's a child-centered, fair bill, and I urge you to support SD 1061. Thank you.
Heidi, Lorraine, and Michael. Or Corinne, I'm sorry.
Thank you. I'm Heidi Davis, and I'm a parent of school-age children in Massachusetts. I'm here to make you aware of concerns expressed by the scientific and medical communities in the U.S. and around the world with regard to health risks associated with the use of industrial-strength Wi-Fi and wireless devices in schools. Technology is a vital tool for education, but safer technology that does not emit microwave radiation exists and must be considered in the interest of public health and our children. You may know that the frequency range that includes cell phones and Wi-Fi was classified as a 2B possible human carcinogen by the World Health Organization in 2011. This is the same possible carcinogen classification as lead, DDT, and other agents. Wi-Fi in schools is high-density, chronic, involuntary exposure without proof of safety, subjecting children and teachers to unprecedented levels of RF radiation for an average of 1,000 hours per school year is unacceptable. The long-term health effects on children are not fully understood, but experts agree.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
So, my colleagues need to go home. All I can do, if I've already called you, you're welcome to come up. If everybody whose I call stood and said their issue only, we would go for another 5 minutes. Otherwise, you can all mail your stuff. I don't know what to do because they live several hours away. So, are you Heidi?
Actually, I'm speaking for Corinne Whitaker this evening.
Corinne and myself are members of a community activist group. We are concerned parents, Dover-Sherburn Residents for Safe Technology. That's the school district of Dover-Sherburn Residents for Safe Technology. We are concerned about cell towers and their proximity to schools, to children, your children and ours. There are certain health effects and safety issues involved with cell towers being so near school buildings, our children playgrounds.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm going to call a few names. If you want to stand at your seat and tell us the issue, we'll go another few minutes. Michael Deaver.
Live in Needham, please pass the Safe Driving Act, HB 1650, Higher Education Affordability, SB 690, the Trust Act, and the Special Juvenile Bill, SB 61. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeffrey Sachs.
I'm here in support of the Community Preservation Act. Thank you, Senator Creem. Please support SB 670 and HB 2943.
Thank you. Randy Sargent.
Thank you. I am a parent caregiver from Sudbury. I'm here today advocating for people with disabilities and seniors who might do not have access to durable medical equipment, and I urge you to support two small programs managed by Mass Rehab that provide customized assistive technologies and refurbished equipment to residents across the Commonwealth.
Thank you. Naomi Meyer.
Hi, I'm a resident of Waltham and an attorney with Greater Boston Legal Services. I came today to speak about the very severe access barriers that our clients are facing when trying to access benefits from the Department of Transitional Assistance. And be happy to be with any of the senators in the future about it.
Thank you. And we do have a website, and we encourage you to send things to them. Jean. Al Manowich. Jean McCabe and Al. Thanks.
You have to leave because I want to address you, or if you don't want me to drive you home, I can leave you a telephone. 722-1639. Is that your number? I can leave you a direct message?
Yeah, that's fine. You want to just say your issue?
Corruption in Newton South High School.
Okay.
Are you leaving with the rest of the family?
I am, but please call my office and be happy to talk to you. Marsha Cooper.
I represent Green Decade Newton Environmental Group. Our main concerns are climate change and hazardous pollution from toxic chemicals. And we urge you to support divestment from fossil fuels and also the carbon neutral, the revenue neutral carbon fee. And
Thank you.
also, the GMOs, please, we want them labeled and just safe alternatives to toxic chemicals. Please be a part of it.
Thank you. Phil Herr.
My name is Philip Kerr. I'm a resident of the city of Newton. I'm here to support Highland Senate Docket 311, an act promoting the planning and development of sustainable communities. It's a new name for a piece of legislation that's been before you 14 years before this. We're hopeful that this year, not only pieces of it get adopted as being passed,
What?
legislation.
Zoning. The zoning laws? Yep. Thank you. Susan Stamps.
I'm Susan Stamps. I'm co-chair in Arlington, which has passed the Community Preservation Act. And I'm here to ask for the bill, I think it's there, to raise the surcharges, the registry of deeds, to better fund community preservation. And the second thing I wanted to say was, I have a family member who's an hourly worker who takes a red line from the Lowell Sun Tea Station into downtown Boston every day. She's lost hundreds of dollars over the last many weeks, so the train hasn't been working. After 2 hours, she's too cold and she goes home. We don't hear enough about all of the people who have suffered and lost wages. And
Thank you. Betty Regan.
Actually, I'm Christine Mance from Franklin on behalf of Betty Regan, who had to move her car. So I urge you all, and I thank all the reps and senators who co-sponsored the docket 1988 Citizens United bill, and I encourage you all to move forward on
Thank you.
this, and Massachusetts becomes
Thank you. Diane Sullivan.
Hi, I'm Diane Sullivan. I'm the policy director with a statewide organization called Homes for Families. Two quick issues that I wanted to address was I want to ask
Just
all
tell
of
us the issues.
family homelessness, if you can support funding of $100 million for the mass rental voucher program, and we need legislative oversight on welfare reform, as Naomi mentioned, access issues on a SNAP benefit. A recipient myself, I just today, as I left my house, received my second bad data wage match from the DTA, which will likely stop my benefits, which will put me behind in my rent, and there's just a ripple effect. We need the legislative
Thank
oversight
you.
of DTA.
Katora Wise. No, that was it. Larry Littleiner.
No, this is Katora Wise right here.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is the same group, though.
Hi, my name is Katora Wise.
Just give us the issue.
Go ahead, say it.
Hi, my name is Katora Wise, and I'm in the 8th grade at the LeBlanc Middle School in Medford, Massachusetts. Please invest in MRVP, go big, so families can go home.
All right, thank you. Harmony Wu.
Hello, Harmony Wu from Needham, Massachusetts. Two related issues. We need to stop austerity budgeting, and we need to start reinvesting in Massachusetts. It's falling apart like the MBTA. There's no one bill for that, but we need to invest again. We need funds to do that. The rich should pay at the same rate as everybody else who graduated income tax and COVID loopholes, so that we can stop everything falling apart. What's happening to the MBTA, what's going to happen to our education, our services. Everyone in here needs more money for the stuff that we're doing. It's got to end.
Thank you. Larry Licklider.
Yes, thank you. Right now in Massachusetts, our more affluent communities in particular, but across the Commonwealth, we have the highest carbon emissions per capita in the world. Our carbon emissions are our children's emergence. We can do much better than this. There's virtually nothing in the legislature today.
Thank you.
One more thing, support can't win.
Yep, thank you. Nadine Cohen.
Yes, hi. I'm Nadine Cohen. I'm a resident of Newton and an attorney at Greater Lowell Sun. I'm here to support Senator Barrett's bill, which would prohibit employers from denying jobs to people based on their credit reports, and also another bill that would prohibit employers from denying jobs to people because they're unemployed.
Thank you. Artie Crocker.
Artie Crocker and Needham, causes green energy. And the issue is as simple as this. Imagine if we do nothing. Nothing is unacceptable. For the past 4 or 5 years, Massachusetts has been doing something. The federal government has been doing something. Doing nothing, again, is unacceptable. Think about 20 years from now if we do nothing. What we've done is we've come to the party. These past 4 years, we've come to the party. Let's stay in the party. Let's keep our rivers cleaner. Let's keep our air more breathable. And let's keep it going because we're on the right track. Let's keep going. Please don't slow it down. We barely touched where we need to go.
Thank you.
Please don't slow it down.
Alice Ingren. Maureen Riley Meager. Mary Haymaker.
Hi, I'm Mary Haymaker. I'm the president of the Massachusetts chapter of Start School Later. We support Senate Docket 51, sponsored by Senator Creem and co-sponsored by a number of you up here, calling for a task force to study the effects of early high school start time on teens and prepare recommendations for statewide school boards so that we can have consistent, healthy start times for our high school. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Mirsky.
Susan Mirsky from Newton. I request that you close Pilgrim Nuclear Power Station. It's a horrible accident just waiting to happen. It's one of the 9 worst safety performance records out of 100 U.S. nuclear plants. We're right here.
Thank you.
50-mile radius.
Thank you. Susan Nickel.
Susan Nickel with the MetroWest Visitors Bureau. I want to thank you for your past investment in the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism and Regional Tourism Councils, and hope you'll keep up the investment. It brings in about 130,000 jobs in the state, so we'd like to keep that number there. Thank you.
Lonnie Powers.
Fund civil legal aid in the amount that we requested. I'm Lonnie Powers. I'm a resident of Newton, and the the Executive Director of the Massachusetts Systems Corporation. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Isabel Thacker.
Hi, Isabel Thacker. I'm a resident of Newton. I'm also an attorney at the second step, and I also am urging you to support civil legal services, money for civil legal services. Thank you.
Kathleen, thank you. Kathleen Reiser. Adele Coyne. Thank you. Steve Hittner.
I'm Steve Hittner. Remember this. Child sentence family law, SD 1061. Vote yes.
David Sellers.
I'm Dave Sellers. I'm the Executive Director of the Boys and Girls Club right here in Newton. I am here today to thank Senator Creem and Senator Spilka and many others for their support of the Mass Alliance of Boys and Girls Clubs. The issue I hope to speak tonight is teen attitudes towards marijuana use as legalization expands, as dispensaries open. I am hopeful that the tax revenues, a portion of those, will be put towards prevention and generating conversations between adults and kids about this issue. Thank you.
Thank you. Susan Davidson. Andrea Downs.
Andrea Downs, I chair the Transportation Advisory Group in the City of Newton, and we need your leadership for a transportation network for the entire state that works in the 21st century. Thank you.
Thank you. Mithra Merriman. John Mathis.
John Mathis. The expanded bottle bill was defeated overwhelmingly. When recycling began, it wasn't very common for people to throw the bottles away. It now is. Tom Keene of the Globe wrote an article after the election urging the end of the bottle bill. Most people are throwing their returnable bottles into recycling.
Thank you.
I think we should eliminate the bottle bill.
Okay, thank you. Neil Gordon. Pat Berger.
I'm supporting the two single-payer bills that have been submitted this year. We've heard all night about all different groups that need more money.
Okay.
Single-payer is eating up the money.
Thank you.
Not single-payer,
Thank
welfare
you.
system. Single-payer would save.
Thank you, Pat. Stacy Shapiro. Eileen Kurkowski. Oh, I'm sorry. Stacy, go ahead.
All right, well, I want to talk about tax reform, that we desperately need tax reform in this state and country. We currently have a system where we decide our tax rate and then we determine our standard of living based on that tax rate. It should be the other way around. We should say a standard of living. That means that everybody has an education, everybody has health care, everybody
Thank you.
has a table. We determine our tax rate based on
Great, thank you. Eileen Kargowski.
Hi, I'm Eileen. I'm from Newton. I think we badly need bail reform, and we need K-WIN.
Thank you. Perfect. Martina Jackson. Adrian Pastel. Philip Villers.
I'm Phil Villers from Concord. I want to thank our able Senator Mike Barrett for being co-sponsor of the electronic privacy bill. We need it. And just a word on solitary confinement, its abuses, it makes people crazy.
Thank you. David Lowe. David net metering. David, who's interested in net metering. Is he here? Well, that's his issue. Sheila Decker, I saw her here.
Sheila Decker, on the need for increased revenue in order to pay for the infrastructure we need in fixing our transportation system.
Thank you. Scott Murphy.
Hi, I'm here for my children and some of their classmates and friends whose educational experience has been impacted greatly by bullying and racism in their school. I'd like to thank you on their behalf for you and your colleagues passing the legislation 5 years ago for the education-focused bullying legislation. We ask you to revisit it and see what we can improve upon. and also to be part of the community discussions happening in our communities regarding how we can improve race in our improve
Thank you.
operational situations in our schools.
Dick Parks. Thatcher Diaz. Steve Jerome.
Black Lives Matter. Please ask the Massachusetts School Building Authority and Deborah Goldberg to meet with Roxbury constituents who are trying to preserve their historic neighborhood school, the former high school of practical arts for girls. Some of the people in this room may have had family who attended there. Black Lives Matter, Jack McCarthy and Deborah Goldberg are not meeting with their constituents in Roxbury. Preservation matters in Roxbury too.
Thank you. That's it. We do have a website. Before we conclude, we're going to just hear, please sit down for a minute. I want to ask the minority leader and the Senate President. They're good? Okay. They gave up their 2 minutes. So we do have a website. It's www.malegislature.gov/cc. Find us on Twitter at MASenate or #MAConvos. Thank you all for coming. I'm sorry I had to cut you all short, but thank you.